Thunderbolt and Lightfoot was a wonderful experience, and I was keen to work with him again. He's a great writer and terrific director. Uh, I'm just thinking now about some great advice that Mike gave me on that on Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. I was kind of nervous and didn't really feel like the character of Lightfoot. And I went into maybe a day or something before shooting, and I said, Mike, I just got to tell you, I don't feel this guy. I don't know who he is. How am I going to do it? And and this was his first movie that he had directed, I believe. And he said to me, Jeff, you know the game tag? And I said, yeah. He said, you're it. And that relieved me, It's like he says, you can't make a mistake. You're the guy, And that was a wonderful bit of direction. But I had a great time, and it was quite a bit different, as you can imagine, from Heaven's Gate with Clint Eastwood, as the producer and the star of the show and kind of calling the shots. Clint is a guy who, likes to do maybe one, maybe two takes, and then that's it, three at the very most. And I'd be the guy who would go to Mike, and say, Mike, I've got an idea. Do you think I can do one more? And Clint would, he'd say, well, I got to go to Clint and ask the boss, and Clint would always say, yeah, give the kid another shot, So I was the one who was always wanting to add, just do one more.
I'll take care of him, Mr. Champion. Thank you. Mr. Averill is lucky to have a friend like you.
After The Deer Hunter, he was the darling of Hollywood. He could do no wrong. And people said, well, what do you want to do, Mike? Anything you want to do, we're up for it, And he said, well, I've got this story of the Johnson County War. It's this American epic, and people said, yeah, go, Mike, go, And so he came to me and talked about a role that he thought I might play in it, the kind of the leader of the town. And as he was telling me the story, it made me think of stories of a relative of mine that I had heard about, a guy named John Houston Bridges. And he came from Arkansas, and then we followed the Cimarron Trail through Texas, and then he came up to California following the gold rush, and went all the way up to Alaska, bringing his family with him, and moving into small towns, and putting up Nickelodeons or little theaters. And I found this out, by the way, by interviewing my great aunt, who happened to be alive. She was on her last legs at the time, in her late 90s. She said that he would get into this terrible depression that the family called the Black Dog, and he would leave the family, go up to the next town following the gold rush, and after maybe 3-4 years, after developing that small town, he would send for his family. They would come up, and he went all the way up like that, up to Alaska. And I told that to Mike, and his eyes kind of beamed, and he called the production designer right there, right at that moment. He said, I want you to change all the signs in the town. John Houston Bridges, So all the signs from the bar and the hotel were all changed like that. And I found this wonderful photograph of this fella, John Houston Bridges, that actually hung. Michael blew it up, beautifully, and framed it, and that was behind my bar. So my relative is in there too. I love westerns. It's really a terrific time in American history. Relatively short, after the Civil War, and that story of the Johnson County War is so remarkable. To think that. 100 gunmen, Texas gunmen, were hired to assassinate these immigrants that were splashing on the shores, from Europe, on our shores, coming out to the West, in the terrible winters, and seeing all these walking hamburgers, all this cattle around, and not being able to, eat those cattle because they, belong to somebody else, and and finally just, having to survive. And that these 100 gunmen this was signed, you know, there with the Cattlemen's Association, which, you know, a few men, I don't know how many there were, you know, but, you know, I think, you know, maybe, you know, 20, 30 guys that owned all the property from Texas all the way up to the Canadian border. They were these cattle barons, and they had this list of immigrants that were going to be, they claimed that were, you know, stealing and eating their cattle, and this death list was signed by the President of the United States, saying, "Yeah, do it, guys. This is, you know, I'm behind you." It's very, it can't, you know, I can't help but think about the same situation we're in with oil now. You know, the cattlemen were very much like the oil companies, in my opinion. It was shot in Montana, up in Glacier Park. It was wonderful. From my perspective, being a musician myself and having Chris Christopherson be the lead actor in it was, you know, so terrific. And then when I found out that Chris invited all of his musician friends, or so many of them, up to be part of the cast, that was a great plus. You know, we had guys like Ronnie Hawkins, who is an amazing character. He's in the film. T-Bone Burnett. He likes to say he was my assistant. I tell people that he was my maid. He swept up my, you know, my establishment. And the great Stephen Bruton, who was so instrumental in making Crazy Heart that I'd done recently, you know, authentic and everything, and a whole host of great musicians. David Mansfield, who did the score, playing fiddle in the roller skating scenes, and we would jam. About every night we would have these great jam sessions. Mike ran a very, you know, kind of a tight ship. We would have something that we fondly called Camp Chimino. And that was when you weren't working, you had to go to camp every day. And camp consisted of, you know, working on all your skills that you had to perfect to make it seem like, you know, in the part you were very proficient and you did this every day. So it'd be riding, you know, gun work, in my case, cockfighting, you know, learning Yugoslavian, you know, roller skating. Oh man, we'd roller skate every day. We got pretty damn good at it. That was an interesting aspect of the whole thing too, that roller skating, you know, putting the roller skating in the West, this was a factual thing. This is what these guys would do. They'd wipe the cow shit off their boots, strap these wheels on, get drunk, and just go crazy, man. Mike, I thought he was handling it, you know, pretty well. You know, like you know, orchestrating it. He's really particular about detail. That's one of the wonderful things about when you see the film. You know, Mike took the whole town. It was a modern day town. Put dirt all over the streets. Put telegraph lines. This is where the train's coming into the station. Just, you know, spectacular. All the clothing, everything. The details were so terrific. And Mike would. You know, take after take, doing something special, something to, you know, create some kind of, you know, magic. I was saying how in Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, how we would do very few takes, and on this, on Heaven's Gate, the spirit was, we'll do as many takes as we want. We, you know, we'll show up in costumes and we'll just keep shooting and shooting and shooting, and you know, there was no sense of kind of when to stop. You know, I found that kind of tough to work with. I mean, we would do, you know, 60 takes sometimes of things, and you never knew when it's going to count. You know, when are you going to fire? You know, fire on all cylinders. And I think what Mike was going after was, you know, capturing that one moment that was, you know, special, so I could understand where he was coming from. And we certainly did catch many amazing moments. I can remember this scene where we're battling, you know, the immigrants rise up and attack the gunman. And we shot that scene for, many, many days. And the immigrants, there were very few stuntmen in that scene. There were, just guys, local guys hired to play, cowboys, get on these horses. And full loads, people have died from being shot with full loads. Here are the gunmen, the Texas gunmen. Here come the immigrants, across the field, running just at top speed, man, charging, hitting these things. They would split. Half of the immigrants would go this way, the other half would go that way. Fuller's earth, which is this very fine dust spread all over the field. The cameras see through this kind of dust better than the naked eye, so it was impossible to see. Everybody shooting through the each other like that with full loads, and guys not really being pros at this kind of thing, and people would get hurt. And after the next day, I remember going back, recocking the shot, we do it again, we go back and being there next to T-Bone and say, oh God, help us, yeah, and just charging. Oh my God!
Stay down, God damn it!
Mike was very protective of his vision, and he didn't want anybody messing with it. He didn't let anybody see dailies. He didn't want anybody, trying to second guess their performance and so forth. And he didn't want the suits coming out and checking his stuff out and giving him their opinion. He wanted to, do it. You said, I was your golden boy, man. Let the golden boy carry the ball. Come on, And making movies is tough, man. You don't need to make it tougher by having somebody in there having their good ideas. That's very tough. So Mike had a closed set, and not only to the suits, but also reporters. He kind of kept people away. And this is my own personal opinion. I haven't read any of the books that have been written about the film. But from my point of view, that kind of caused resentment, from the financiers, the guys in the studio, and also the reporters. They thought, oh, this guy thinks he's so great, he's kicking us out, and then the rumors started about how much money it was and everything, and then it just kind of got worse and worse. And then I'm just in my mind, I'm just thinking about a terrifically sad time when we were here in New York at the premiere, and Mike, I don't know if he even actually had the chance to see the entire film from beginning to end. He had just finished pasting it together. Because what often happens, especially in the big movies, is that you have a release date, and you're forced to just get it together before that date. Whether it's entirely in shape or not. And because he was making such a grand movie, the scale was so big, to knit all those pieces together was really difficult and a challenge. And I had the feeling that he kind of went off half-cocked when it was released. He didn't have a chance to put the final polishing on, but I think he was hoping that, the story and the performances, everything was strong enough that people would enjoy it. And we had the premiere here, and everybody in tuxedos, and here comes the movie, and the lights come up at the end of the movie, and there's just kind of silence, and you're hoping, they're just so bowled away, and then you hear that terrible, I call it popcorn sound, and you're waiting for it to, but it never happened. Just it kept kind of going like a love popcorn thing. And oh God, it was so, after all of that hard work, and then the next day, we were going to fly up to Toronto to see the Canadian premiere, and we were driving in a car together and pulled over to get the newspaper, the New York Times, and we read the most scathing review. It just was so personal, I remember it said, if they shaved Mike Cimino's head, they would find 3 sixes, calling him, the devil, and attacked him so personally, and that review really, just affected everybody's opinion. When you read, oh, this is the guy who knows about what movies are all about, and he hates it. Well, it must be no good. So when you have that information and you go in to see a movie, that informs your own opinion and your own experience. I watch it maybe every couple of years. I will watch it. Mike was so kind to me when we were shooting. I'm thinking a lot of, I haven't answered questions. I'm thinking a lot of memories are getting jarred now as we talk. But the Hog Ranch, the horror house, they were gonna, when we finished using that set, Mike said that the owner of the property was gonna burn the cabin down. Would anybody like it? Kind of thinking as a joke, oh yeah, who's gonna buy a cabin? You gotta take it away from here because the guy doesn't want it on his property. And I raised my hand. I said, hey, Mike, me, I live, 400 miles south of here, I got a place. So Mike says, you got it. And so he gave me the Hog Ranch and the beautiful stable there where, Chris brings that gorgeous carriage out. And so I numbered the logs, and that's where I'm gonna go in a couple of weeks' time up to Montana to the Hog Ranch. I'm just thinking of a wild scene where we shot that, where I get, shot, gunned down, and we had a dozen copies of my wardrobe with 100 squibs, these, little explosions with blood bags attached to that. And we went through those 3 times.
Damn you!
It was in the days when to do a shot like when you're riddled with bullets, they just had these nails into a board, and the guy would have another piece of metal or something, and would like that, and it would go across all the nails and set off all these bullets. So the first time I do it, I go to the special effects guy who's going to do the nails, and I say, okay, I'm going to get shot, shoot me once, and I'm going to go reach into my side holster here, and I'm going to pull out my gun and get a shot off and then let it go. He says, okay, I got you. I'm going to wait, I'm going to shoot you once, you're going to go for the thing, you're going to get a shot off, and then I say, that's exactly right, let's do it that way. Okay, so what happens? Boom! Boom! And he puts off one right under my arm. And I said, oh, I'm shot. And then, bah, 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 bah. And I fall down, and I say, shall I move? I said, no, I might as well just die on film, what the hell, So now we load into the second, I show him, I said, God, look, man, look at the bruise. Don't do that. You gotta wait until I get my shot off. He said, okay, yeah, I'll shoot you once, you're gonna pull the gun out, shoot, and then I said, yeah, okay. So we get into the next suit. Boom! Bam! Every fucking time, man. Every time, man. I'm surprised.